cracking up? Is India breaking down into smaller nations? India is frequently heralded as a marvel of modern governance, a subcontinent-sized democracy managing an extraordinary diversity of languages, religions, and regional identities. For decades, this sprawling federal union has functioned under a complex constitutional framework that seeks to balance national unity with regional autonomy. But in recent years, simmering discontent has begun to bubble more visibly to the surface. Protests, political campaigns and insurgent movements are once again raising old questions about identity, representation and autonomy.
We want separatist Gorkhaland!
From the chilly ridges of Darjeeling, where Gorkhas continue to demand their own state, to the increasingly vocal concerns of southern leaders who fear political marginalization, a profound shift appears to be underway. The Northeast remains a cauldron of grievances, often feeling culturally and politically distant from New Delhi. Meanwhile, internal power dynamics are shifting rapidly due to changing demographics and political centralization. So the question must be asked, is India genuinely on the verge of fracturing into smaller competing entities, or is it engaged in an organic redefinition of its internal structure, aligning governance more closely with the aspirations of its people? Welcome to the Global Insight. One of India's most remarkable features is the built-in flexibility of its federal system. Unlike many other federal states where boundaries are constitutionally rigid, India's constitution, particularly through Article 3, grants Parliament the authority to create new states, alter existing state boundaries, or even rename states. This structural elasticity allows the Indian Union to respond dynamically to shifts in political sentiment, administrative requirements, and cultural assertions. It's a model designed not for uniformity, but for adaptability. Since independence, this flexibility has been put into practice several times. The first major transformation came in the 1950s when states were reorganized along linguistic lines, a response to popular demand that ultimately helped to diffuse growing tensions. Later in the year 2000, the peaceful creation of Uttarakhand, Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand once again showcased the system's ability to adapt without violence or authoritarian coercion. As noted by Textbook, Article 3 has been instrumental in facilitating these changes, offering a legal mechanism for evolution rather than rupture. Similarly, educational analysis from Vision IAS underscores how federalism in India is less about static divisions and more about ongoing negotiation and recalibration, a living architecture of governance shaped by the country's extraordinary diversity. Across India, a new wave of regional assertion is reshaping the national conversation about identity and governance. Among the most persistent of these is the Gorkhaland movement in Darjeeling, a campaign that dates back over a century. It's not merely a quest for a new state, but a demand for cultural recognition, political representation, and economic justice. The Gorkha community, with its deep historical roots in the region, has long felt marginalized by West Bengal's political apparatus. As highlighted in research published by the International Journal for Research in Multidisciplinary Fields, despite the creation of Gorkhaland Territorial Administration in 2011, the movement's central demand for full-fledged statehood remains unresolved. The recurring protests and negotiations underscore a deeper struggle over identity, belonging, and the limits of delegated power. The Northeast tells a similarly layered story. Here, the tension between local identity and national integration has long been mediated by the Indian Constitution's 6th Schedule. This provision provides significant autonomy to tribal areas through elected regional and district councils, safeguarding unique cultural practices and governance systems. Yet even these special provisions are not always enough. For instance, recent mobilizations in Ladakh have demanded the extension of 6th Schedule protections to their region, a call rooted in fears over environmental degradation, erosion of tribal rights and political neglect. As outlined in public domain sources such as Wikipedia's coverage of the 6th Schedule, these movements reflect a broader pattern. Autonomy remains a crucial aspiration not just in the northeast, but also in geographically and culturally distinct regions seeking protection from the homogenizing pressures of centralized governance. In southern India, the issue takes a more institutional form. States like Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Andhra Pradesh are deeply concerned about the looming 2026 delimitation exercise, which will redraw parliamentary constituencies based on updated population figures. As explained in an article by CNBC TV18, the South could see its parliamentary influence diminish despite having achieved significant development milestones, such as lower population growth and higher social indicators. Meanwhile, populous northern states like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar stand to gain additional representation. This perceived injustice has sparked fears of a demographic power shift that could inflame regional tensions and provoke renewed calls for autonomy or even state bifurcation. The Financial Times also recently warned that this looming recalibration could fracture the delicate political balance that holds India's federation together. At the heart of many statehood demands lies a powerful conviction that smaller, more localized governance leads to better outcomes. This belief is supported by patterns observed in post-reorganization India. States like Uttarakhand and Chhattisgarh, which were carved out in the year 2000, have often outperformed their parent states in areas such as infrastructure development, education and healthcare. Their smaller administrative sizes have enabled more responsive governance, quicker implementation of policies and closer alignment between state priorities and local needs. As several studies and policy reviews have indicated, those newly formed states were able to capitalize on focused attention and a strong sense of regional identity, giving them a head start in targeted development. However, the reality is more complex. Not all small states have succeeded uniformly. While some have flourished, others have struggled to manage limited resources, deal with internal corruption, or develop self-sustaining economies. For instance, questions remain about the long-term fiscal viability of smaller states that lack robust industrial bases or natural resources. Yet even with these challenges, the push for statehood persists, driven not merely by economic logic, but by cultural imperatives. Movements such as those for Gorkhaland and Bodoland reflect a desire for self-governance rooted in distinct ethnic and linguistic identities. For these communities, autonomy is not just a bureaucratic rearrangement, it's a mechanism to preserve their heritage, protect their interests, and chart their own developmental path within the larger framework of the Indian Union. India's ability to hold together such a vast and varied population lies in its delicate balancing act between unity and autonomy. The country has faced several existential challenges, from the separatist insurgency in Punjab during the 1980s to enduring unrest in Kashmir and ongoing tensions in the northeast. These crises have tested the resilience of the Indian Union and forced the central government to respond with a mix of strategies. In some cases, the state has offered dialogue and political accommodation. In others, it's employed constitutional provisions to grant special autonomy or introduce protective frameworks. Where necessary, force has also been used, as seen in counterinsurgency operations in Kashmir and in the northeast. But throughout, the guiding principle has been clear. While secession is unequivocally off the table, deemed unconstitutional by Indian law, the expression of regional identity is not. This legal and political architecture, as described in public sources like Wikipedia's entry on federalism in India, has helped transform potentially destabilizing regional movements into structured negotiations within the democratic framework. By allowing for the creation of new states, extending autonomy through instruments like the 6th Schedule, and engaging with regional leaders through democratic institutions, India has managed to diffuse some of the most volatile separatist pressures. It is a federalism that bends without breaking, absorbing shocks while preserving the central structure. The paradox of Indian unity is that it depends not on rigid uniformity, but on its ability to accommodate and adapt, providing just enough space for regional aspirations without undermining the larger national identity. India's federal structure is poised for a period of significant transformation and possibly turbulence. Chief among the looming issues is the 2026 Delimitation, a constitutional mandate that will redraw parliamentary constituencies based on the latest population data. This change could dramatically shift the political balance between North and South India, rewarding states with higher population growth and potentially diminishing the influence of states that have excelled in social development and population control. Such a demographic realignment is already generating apprehension among Southern leaders, who fear losing both parliamentary clout and bargaining power within the federal setup. As noted by several political analysts, this could become a flashpoint for wider debates about fairness, representation, and the nature of Indian unity. Beyond delimitation, a fresh wave of identity-based demands is also reshaping India's federal conversation. The push for a separate Kamtapur state in West Bengal, renewed agitation from Gorkha and Bodo communities, and localized autonomy movements are gaining momentum. These are not isolated incidents, but signals of a deeper reawakening of regional consciousness. At the same time, national initiatives such as the proposed One Nation, One Election policy, which aims to synchronize elections across the country, are being perceived by many as a centralizing force that could erode regional autonomy. Similarly, the Goods and Services Tax, or GST, while economically unifying, has sparked criticism for weakening states' fiscal independence. As reported by the Federal and summarized in public domain entries like Wikipedia's page on Indian federalism, the coming years may determine whether India can continue to evolve its democratic architecture to manage these contradictions, or whether it will face growing pressures that push the limits of its federal compact. India's post-independence history offers a compelling counter-narrative to fears of fragmentation. Rather than breaking apart under the weight of its internal diversity, India has consistently demonstrated an extraordinary capacity for democratic adaptation. Since 1956, the country has undergone 5 major phases of state reorganization, each aimed at better aligning political boundaries with linguistic, cultural, and administrative realities. According to detailed historical accounts on platforms like Clear IAS, these transformations were largely peaceful and democratic, marked not by secession or civil war, but by constitutional debate, electoral mandates, and parliamentary action. Even in the face of violent insurgencies in Punjab, Kashmir, and the Northeast, India has leaned on a combination of dialogue and decentralization to manage dissent. The creation of Telangana in 2014, one of the more recent examples, reflected not rupture but reform, a decades-long movement culminating in a negotiated and legally sanctioned new state. Rather than interpreting these changes as a sign of disintegration, they're better seen as evidence of democratic resilience. India is not dissolving into smaller countries, it's refining its federal contract, embracing subnational identities, and recalibrating the mechanics of representation. This historical flexibility underscores the core strength of Indian democracy, its ability to evolve without compromising the unity that binds the republic together. So, is India truly cracking up, breaking into smaller, irreconcilable pieces? The overwhelming weight of history and current trends suggest otherwise. What we are witnessing is not a disintegration, but an evolution. India's constitutional and political machinery is responding, as it always has, to the shifting contours of its demographic, cultural, and administrative landscape. Far from being a danger, the debate around smaller states and greater autonomy reflects a living democracy, vibrant enough to handle dissent, accommodate identity, and recalibrate governance in line with the people's aspirations. This ongoing transformation reinforces the principle that has long guided the Indian Republic. Unity does not require uniformity. The mosaic of Indian federalism, shaped by a myriad of languages, customs, and histories, is held together not by cohesion. These calls for self-determination may well be the secret to preserving it. That's it from the team at the Global Insight for now. We want to hear what you think. How does the conversation about new states and regional autonomy affect you? Do you know someone who has been involved or impacted by movements like Gorkhaland or Bodoland? And what do you think about the upcoming 2026 delimitation and its potential to reshape India's political future? And as always, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel here at the Global Insight. Until next time, stay tuned.